Okay, welcome back. In the last video, we made a character. In this video, we are going to be making a NPC. So I'm going to show you how to go about creating a homebrew NPC. It starts the same way as making a character. You want to click Add, click Character, NPC 1. You don't want this in any player's journal because you don't want them to see the NPC, and you don't want them to have the ability to edit. So we leave both of those fields blank. We can add a token. Now, up to this time, I've been dragging it out of my personal library, but since I've already added a couple things, I can use one of these things for the NPC. So I'm going to just go ahead and grab that image and drag it over, and there we go. We got an NPC image. We're going to go ahead and save. Let me open up the character sheet. Now, we want to create an NPC. The NPC sheet looks a lot different, you'll notice. It doesn't have all of this stuff the way it is because NPCs don't usually need the same amount of stuff. So we're going to go ahead and switch this to NPC 1. This is going to be a medium fiend. Armor class is going to be 18 natural. And these are just the fields that you type in. These are for your benefit. For example, say this guy was wearing plate mail. Now, why would you put in that he's wearing plate mail? Because you need to know plate mail. We're just going to go with plate. You need to know that when somebody casts Shocking Grasp on him, that this is at disadvantage. They go to see, is he wearing plate? You know, that's a very good way. You can just glance at him and be like, oh yeah, he is wearing plate. We're going to say that he has 300 hit points, but I typed 200. So we're going to go 200 hit points. 120 hit points, sure, whatever. The formula, like this says 11d8 plus 33. What this is used for is, say you want to roll for its hit points, you can click that formula and it will roll for hit points. So now he has 73 hit points. Oh, I don't like that number. Let's go with 83 hit points. That's much better. However, if you're the kind of like me and you just keep rolling, that sort of just tells me, like I was hoping he'd have 90. So then I just go, fuck it, he has 90 hit points. Speed, you can set in his speed. Speed 30 feet, 60 feet. Fly, also just useful so you can know what he does. Attributes, this does not auto calculate your attributes for you. Putting it in, or rather it only shows what you put numbers in. So this guy has a strength of 20, a dex of 20, a con of 20, an int of 20, a wisdom of 20, but a charisma of 1. You know, he's just really not good with people. He thinks he's the smartest dude in the room. However, it's not going to do his saves. If I close this here now, all I have is this, and I'll have to use these for saves. And it'll roll, and that's how saves are calculated. If you don't have proficiency in the save, it's really just taking your modifier, and that's perfectly fine. But say this guy actually has proficiency in strength saves, so we're going to take his +5 from dex, and we're going to add the 3 that he would get. 5, that'd be 8. 8 for his strength. We're going to also say that he has a -5 in there, but he gets a +3, so he really has a -2. And so now when I click the gearbox so I can see what the sheet looks like, I can see in the saving throws I have a strength save of +8 and a charisma throw of -2. You also notice that they are rolling with advantage / disadvantage at every point. I always leave that on because if they're rolling with disadvantage, I take the lower number. If they're rolling with advantage, I take the higher number. And if they're rolling normal, I just take the first number. You can set it up to whisper. And so I'm like, okay, he rolled his saving throw, and it was, he failed. I just don't want them to see the modifiers sometimes. Or see how it has the name right here, NPC 1 in the lower right where I'm looking? You can't see where I'm looking, but it says NPC 1 there. Maybe I don't want them to know what the creature's name is or the monster is until they figure it out. Now, I'm one of those people who always rolls in the open. There's so much more stuff that I can manage other than fudging my rolls. But if you're a person who likes to have the power to fudge rolls, or you like to just hide things from your players because you don't trust them to handle the information well, maybe they're super into metagaming or whatever, however you guys have fun, then you can just set this to whisper to GM. Back in one of my videos, I talked about setting up the default settings of these pages, and unfortunately, I don't think there's a default to always set it to whisper. But when you're creating your character or bringing it in, typically if you're importing something, it typically is defaulted to whisper rather than public. And when I'm working on a character, the very first thing I do when I create an NPC is set this to whisper. Before, I didn't do it for this video because it's a fake NPC, but in a real NPC, as soon as I start editing this thing, as soon as I come in and I open this up, the first thing I do is say to GM because I don't want them to see what I'm working on. Anyway, in here, the rest is all very simple. You can set his insight score and that whatever has a real number. If you put zeros in here, they will also show up. Whatever is a real number without being grayed out will show up. Damage vulnerabilities. This does not impact your ability to play. If somebody throws a firebolt at him, he's not going to take more damage. You have to do that math yourself. This is just for your effect. If you say he's a spellcasting NPC, you have to select an ability, otherwise it won't use one. So let's just say his spellcasting ability is Constitution. If he has a special weapon on him that changes his attack modifier, then you would adjust that here. And you could also adjust his, you set his caster level. That'll tell you how many levels of spellcasting he has. So he's a 10th level caster. And if he has something that adjusts his spell save DC mod, you would adjust that here. If he has any legendary actions, you would put that in here. And if he has special legendary reactions, then you would check that, which gives you a drop down here. See, it says reactions. If I uncheck this, that goes away. He has no reactions. By checking legendary actions or putting a number there, if I delete the number, legendary action goes away. All this stuff is there to help you, so you can just put it in. I said have it always roll for advantage, whisper toggle on, auto damage and crit roll, and NPC names in rolls show. You could also set that to hide, in which case you could not whisper your rolls and they wouldn't see the NPC name. If you put that, what happens is when you roll initiative, see how it has 6.2? That's always going to have just a 0.2 there for you. So that way, the 0.2, by the way, I don't know where it gets that number from. I don't know how it gets the 0.2 to add. You see this warning? It says you want to send results of this roll to the turn tracker, but no valid token was selected. That's because there's no token out there, so I can't roll initiative for a token that's not out there. It still rolls for me, so I might know, but that warning is just saying you haven't put a token on the board and selected it. If I select this token and then roll initiative, it's going to roll the initiative using that token. However, that token initiative was not the initiative that I wanted it to be. So if you select any token or roll, your players need to select their tokens, and it'll attribute the token to... oh, yeah, see how it has a no picture here? That's because I deleted it from the recent uploads. It still is on the board, and I can still move it around, but without it being in the recent uploads, there's no picture there. When I deleted the token, it automatically took it off the token order. Keep that in mind if you're using one token to represent a large goblin horde. If you delete it, and it might remove it from the turn order. So, moving down, you're creating your character. I said it was a 10th level spellcaster, which means it gets 4 first level spells, 3 second, 3 third, 3 fourth, and 2 fifth. That's useful when I'm picking out spells. I can always go over here and give it some spells. It has these spells, and by dragging and dropping them, it adds them. Very easy. This is just information thing. So, looks amazing. This guy thinks he is the most handsome, and if you insult him his looks, he will go into a frenzy, and all attacks on him have advantage, and he attacks with advantage. Then you click the gearbox, and there we go. Now this is something you can click and it will show it. Notice I'm still whispering to GM. Say I had this thing and I was working on it and I clicked accidentally and I'm like, oh shit, now the players might log in and see that there's a guy that has this looks amazing thing and go and start insulting every guy's looks until they find the monster that this affects them. That's why I always put it on whisper to GM. When you're done editing, I'm using my hand to gesture again. When you're done editing the NPC options, you can just click this gearbox and it'll go away. That's all the back behind of this section up here. Now we need to add a weapon. You can pull weapons over. So say I wanted a longsword. Keep in mind, here's the proficiencies. That's the rules about longsword. We want the items, so we're going to give him a Vorpal longsword, mostly because I never have anything with a Vorpal longsword. And just like that, poof, it pulls it in. You can click this, it'll roll for you, and tell all the things. Now, sometimes you might say, yes, I want the Vorpal Longsword, but I don't want it to say Vorpal Longsword, because then the players are scared when they see it, when I roll for them. Well, just go into the edit and remove the things that you don't want to have in here. I am going to remove that. I know what a Vorpal Longsword does. I know on a 20, it kills things. And so I'm going to go ahead and, nope, there we go. Look at that. But the name still says Vorpal Longsword. So we're going to say redacted longsword. There we go. Now they don't know what it is. But I keep the other one because I'm never using it two-handed because he has a shield. But now I keep the abilities. That's one way to do it. You could also put the Vorpal ability over here and say, you know, Vorpal, V-O-R-P-A-L, and then open this up so you can get access to the text. Copy it, drop it, close this. There you go. Now the Vorpal ability is over there, and you can keep it. He has some. We set it up so he has legendary. Let's see. Did we set it up? If he has reactions, you can put the reactions in here. I like this. We'll just use the parry. Adds 2 to AC on reaction. There. Again, anything that hovers with a red is, see how when I hover over it's not red? That means he can't, that's not a clickable thing. But if it hovers and it turns red, that's clickable. Okay, so we've made an NPC. The abilities and attributes is the nitty gritty of adding things. You can change, like if I change this here to 80, it would appear on the other side. In the character sheet, it updates right there. That's where all this information is stored. If you understand how to program this and add things, that's good. The show to players, what that does is it forces on the other player's screen this portion of the page, the bio and info. So say you're like, you see a guy and he looks like this. You click show to players, and it says this character isn't currently shared with any players. You want to share with all the players in game, and you click show to everybody. Now everyone can see it, but it didn't. It added, I'm pointing at the screen again, up here in player journals it says all players. Previously we didn't have that, and so if you want to hide it again, you have to come here and remove it. So we created a cool monster, right? We haven't forgotten anything. We pull it out, and oh no, he has no hit points or anything else like that. And I might have a dozen of these. So this is how you de-chain them together. So we need to have the HP here. And so we're going to put HP in. We need to put the 120 because it only shows the number. It doesn't, so now we have 120. We're going to go ahead and put AC here. It's set as 15, but wait, doesn't he have plate mail? When you set AC and it's an NPC, it's looking somewhere else. This AC is simply looking at his dex modifier. 10 plus dex is 15. But because he has a 20 dex. But if we hit N and we go down here, we have NPC AC. There we go, 18. And who knows, maybe we'll put some movement here in the third one. Some people like to do that. If I could find movement. M-O-V-E. Okay, I can't find movement, so we're just not going to. Oh, hey, cool. You could put, we're going to say that he has, see how many level 1 spots he has. Who cares? Let's just go up and put none. Okay, so there are two ways. So what I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to open up the character sheet, edit, and then I'm going to say use selected token. Notice I have this token selected, and then I'm going to save. Now when I pull it out, all this stuff is attached. See? You can see he has 120 hit points, and we're just going to, there's 3 of these things. Ooh, they're so scary. And so we're going to subtract 50 hit points from this one. Oh, I didn't hit everyone. I just hit 1. Oh, fuck. Now what do I do? There's an easy way to do this. And that is you go into the token, and you could do it one of 2 ways. You could change this to none generic token. See how all the numbers stay? And you have some information about who you could set it to be controlled by a particular person, but you don't need to select that. We're going to just set it to me. And then you can click Save Changes, but you need to add that to, you need to edit your sheet. Remove the token in there before, and then you select the token. Now, if you do that before you set it in the token, then you're good to go. This particular character, now if I do minus 50, it only affects that character. It doesn't affect the other characters. And in fact, those two are affected still because those are running in the old token. It doesn't force an update. So you want to do this before you populate 16 goblins on the field, or else you're going to have to do this with 16 goblins. You also notice that when I pulled out a new one, his health was at what his health was when I set it this way. You know, when I did that change a second ago, his health was 70 out of 120, and so that caused the problem. Now, that's the first way. There is one other way to do that. That way is to go into the settings of the token, and we're going to say this is NPC 1, and instead of changing the represents character, we're just going to change this to no longer represent HP. And we're also going to change this to no longer represent AC. And now the number stayed. See, it's still at 70 because that's why I pulled it out. And we're going to just go ahead and reset that so his health goes up. And then we go back into the sheet. See how the sheet is minimized right here? I double click to open it up. We click edit, remove the old token because we need to apply the changes. Select the new, make sure the new one's selected, and you select the token. And that's all there is to it. Now when I pull out more and I want to change the HP minus 60, it doesn't affect the other ones. And even if I change the AC, because his armor's falling off, it doesn't affect the other ones. And that's how you create a monster. There is obviously you can import monsters if you have the pro, but this is the free version, so that's how you create a monster. Again, if you're just doing this for 2 or 3 sessions, you can have your player's handbook or your monster manual open next to you and use the roller over here to roll for those things, and it'll pop up in the chat, and you're good to go. But that's how monsters are created. Thank you very much, and I hope this video was helpful. In the next video, I'm just going to show... Actually, I'm going to tack it on to the end of this one. Say, let's make a new character. I'm not going to change the name of this one. And when we go to the character sheet, we have this button, Edit Sheet Directly. All that does is take us here. And if your characters know, if your players know all of their numbers, they're already sheets and they're just importing the data, you can just set it here. Tab will move between the things. Anything that highlights red is clickable. And it staggers across, so you could just very quickly spin up a character like this. You click the edit to put the token in and all of that jazz. Remember though that if you give your characters the sheets, then you need to select who's able to view it and able to edit it. When you do that, now they can edit it and view it. If you're doing this by hand and you need to select a class or something like that so you get the right damage dice for your hit dice, then just click the gearboxes. The gearboxes are the edit, the ability to edit things and change things. To add weapons, you could either drag them from the compendium. So I could drag a longsword over here and it will add it for me. Look, longsword one-handed, longsword two-handed. It's presuming to use my strength. If I said, well, I want to use it versatile, so I'm going to go with dex, you just come in here and change the dex. It changes the number and the damage. If I want to make a custom weapon, you could just add it here. You can add up to 2 damage types. You can also do math here, 1d6 plus 1d8. You can, in here, there's a notation that you can use to cause it to roll dice. So you could say, if crit, roll, do extra... and it's a double bracket and then a dice command, 1d8, and we're gonna name it so it's clickable. Proficiency, strength. If you put magic bonus here as a +1, it will apply it to the attack and the damage. If you only want it to be like a +1 attack but no damage, then you have to put the damage, or you have to put it on the thing itself. You can add multiple damage types, 2d6 poison. And there we go. So now if I click this, it goes here. And it says, if crit, do an extra 1 damage, because on the 1d8, it rolled a 1. On top of that, for homebrew weapons and things like that, if you need a saving throw, you can put the saving throw here. Strength, wisdom, dex, and whatever, versus DC. There's a flat DC, which you can set, like 15. Wands have that a lot of times. Or versus your spell save DC, and if they save, there's damage. That's for custom spells. And when you do spells like Fireball, say I'm going to add Fireball. This is a caster who can add Fireball. You can, nope, not Firewall, Fireball. you can drag and drop it, and it will add a fireball clickable thing right here for you to roll. Sometimes that screws up, and when that happens, just delete it and re-add it. And that is basically... Ooh, goodness sneeze. There's a couple other things that you can just totally add. For example, if you're like tracking items, you could add them. Like if you add arrows, by the way, or bolts, and you like tracking them, it adds it down here, and it adds it as a countable item up here. And when you change it here, it changes it up here. And so you could say have 40 arrows in your quiver and start deducting them as you go, and it will adjust according to weight. However, it does not when you change it up here. It does change it down there once you've clicked off of it. Some people like to have things like divine sense, but notice that if I click off of here, no numbers are in here. But say, and I know I spelled sense wrong. I think it's divine sense like that. So we have our divine senses. Other people like to make a bunch of these and have level 1 spells slots, etc. But you see how I clicked over and all those other ones got missing or went away? That's because there's nothing in them. And so if you want more drop downs, then you need to at least put a holder space in them if you intend to do it this way. Otherwise, when you have nothing there, oh, it didn't delete it because it used to have something in it. Interesting. Clicking this will delete the row, and there's you can also rearrange them if you want. And that's pretty much, most of this stuff is pretty easy to understand. And so if you have any questions, feel free to PM me or hop on my Discord. Okay, so that is the true end of the video. I did not mean for it to go 20 minutes, but that is how you make characters using, or NPCs and characters using the other two tabs. In our next video, we're going to talk about how to add maps.